Demian Maia is about to co-headline UFC Brasilia against Gilbert Burns Saturday night here in Brazil. But before we get in the fighting talk, I was looking at your social media and I saw that you love fishing. And I was looking at a picture you posted a few weeks ago with your son and a huge tambaqui. How heavy was that?
That was around 20 kilos, which will be how much? Like 45 pounds.
Is that the heaviest fish you have caught?
Yes, yes, yes. That was the heaviest one.
Was it hard to actually uh, get it to a boat or wherever you were?
Took a while, took a while because especially they say the white tambaqui is stronger than the black one. So the fish was fighting a lot, and pulling the line, and I bring back, and so it was funny because I was about to leave, and I was with my kid and some friends, and I was about to leave the place, and so I said, okay, I will throw the last one, and then we go, let's go, because one of my friends had something to do, was his birthday. So I threw and I got the fish, when we are supposed to leave in like 3 minutes, so we took like 15 minutes to take out that fish from the water.
And did you eat that or got it back?
We released that one, yeah, that one we released, yeah.
Uh, do you are you used to fishing a lot? How did you get into this in this art? Let's say.
Yes. Actually, that always started when I was kid. My grandpa had a little, very little ranch around São Paulo. We call sítio or chácara, and I used to go there with him every weekend. So I grew up in São Paulo during the week, but during the weekend I was like a guy in the middle, a kid in the middle of the jungle, like with knives and and shotguns and this kind of thing. Since I was pretty young, and fishing and in hunting and this kind of things, and so I love to be into the nature. I love this relation. Actually, when I was you know, getting to the college, my first option before journalism was veterinarian, because I love this word. And so I started there when I was a kid, and for many years I stopped to do that, especially after UFC, because so many things going on, and and I kind of let this aside. And then I met a big friend of mine like 10 years ago, Alex Atala, who is a great chef, and also he's a great fisherman. And when I saw he was doing, I said, man, I want to start again. And he helped me. We went sometimes with some friends to Amazon to fish. So this makes this flame, burn again. And I start to do. And now with my kids, it's great because it's something that is nice to do with them.
You're a very busy guy with your gym in São Paulo and your training for MMA fights. How do you balance that? Is that something you always try to keep doing to kind of step away from the crazy life in São Paulo to bring you back to these old memories of your childhood?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I was many years just focused on my career and doing nothing but training and taking care of the academy. But as the times goes, and you learn with experience that you need, and if you do organize well your time, you can do much more things that you believe. And especially after I have kids, that I thought, man, I have time to do nothing now, just training, be in the academy, and be with my kids. That's everything. But then you realize that you have much more time that you think if you organize well. It's all about organizing. So if you don't if you don't have many things to do, you kind of let it go and you don't organize your time and you think time is too short. But I start, for instance, I when I get my kids, I stop to read for a while. There's some habit that I always had because I said, man, there's no time. When I get home, I need to be with them. I'm tired, and and then I realized, man, if I wake up a little bit early before I go to training and sit and read for like 20 minutes, half an hour, it's a spot of timing that I have, when I'm eating the breakfast and this kind of thing. So it's easier than the people think, but needs organization.
What are you reading right now?
I'm reading a book about Herman Hesse. And I just read one of him, and I'm reading another one, and the next one will be Damien, the book that was the origin of my name that I never read. And also I'm reading at the same time a biography of Jô Soares, a guy who used to have a talk show in Brazil, and an actor and comedian, these kind of things. And also, I'm started now with audiobooks that I never thought before. I love podcasts and I listen a lot, but there was a guy uh, who does a podcast. His name is Gustavo Mafra. He's actually from Brasilia, and he made a book. They call a pod book, and I got this book in a platform that has many audiobooks, and I said, man, I'm gonna start. So I start with his, audiobook, and I moved to other ones, and that was like this line for a month if you don't like, but I will keep doing because it's so normally I always reading two books at the same time, and I'm listening one in my way to the academy and way back.
What's the story of this book about your name? That that that's what got your name.
Yeah, that's about a kid. It's history about a kid, but I didn't read yet. That's what I'm gonna read.
But you know what it's about.
Kind of, but I try to don't get too much into. But this writer Herman Hesse won like Nobel Prize as a writer. I just read Siddhartha, is a book about his experience in India, and I'm reading one they call O Lobo da Steppe. I don't know the translations, like the wolf of the steppes. I don't know, or the wolf of the. I don't know how to call it in English. The next one will be Demian.
We always talk about your desire to have your own podcast when you leave fighting. Is writing a book also a plan for you in the future?
Actually, I'm writing right now, with a friend. I was, thanks to Alex again, he said, why you don't write a book? I said, no, I don't want to write a biography because it's too much, I'm too young. They said, no, write about the histories that of your life in jiu-jitsu. And so I spoke to a friend of mine who did college with me, and I was working for Folha de São Paulo and BuzzFeed. He was working right now. I said, Mauro, can you do that? Interview me, and then we write the book. And then he said, yeah, sure. And then, like 3 years ago, we started to do the interviews. And right now, we changed the way of the book, because the book, for me, would be first just about chapters about histories of, interesting histories in jiu-jitsu, MMA. But now, we changed because I start to give some talks in some shelters in São Paulo, and also to my students, the young ones, about I always would get a history of my life and what I did wrong there and how I correct that, using the jiu-jitsu tools and as being an athlete to try to be in the highest level, and link some histories with that. Is kind of a self-improvement book. So I said, let's change, not just talk the history, but talk about what this history taught me, what I get better, and how people can use that, which exercise or habits people can use to don't fall in the same, I would say, not mistake, but something like that. So will be an interesting book, I think.
Sitting down and talking to a friend about your life stories, how did that help you rethink the things you do and help you evolve as an athlete today?
Very much. That's very interesting and a good question, because actually I start to realize the habits that I create that is give me the the power to be a better athlete and a better person. And as I point this to him, I start to polish myself to keep those habits, because it's very common, you have a very big history or traumatic or very exciting one, like let's say a title fight, or a problem that you have outside with your life, and then you change for a while, but then you slide back to where you were. And I think the nice thing about life is like when you keep evolving and change. So as once I start to talk about, for instance, there was a chapter about comfort versus discomfort. So, and I talk about being able to put you in uncomfortable positions all the time, and how to deal with that, and how when you seek for comfort you don't evolve. So now I'm much more aware, if in my life I'm seeking for comfort, because I was talking about that. So was good, because it's something that I will say actually in the book, that is something that it will help me to remember those history and remember those habits that are important for me to keep evolving.
Do you have a date or when you think this book's gonna be released? Because your career is in the is coming to an end soon. So do you think it's gonna be released before you fight for the last time or after you finish your career?
I hope before. That's that was talking to Mauro actually. When closed the previous deal with the UFC, the bane would be the last fight, right? So I said, man, I wanna release in 2019, but he said it will be hard. I think early 2020. When I closed two more fights, I said, okay, we have time. But that's the problem. When you say we have time, then we relax again. So right now he did the first chapter, and I think we're gonna have around 9 or 10. So I hope he rushed with that, because I wanna release that. You know, I hope until July or something like that, because I want this to be at the same time of my last fight, or at least before, a little bit before or a little bit after my last fight. But I want to get this momentum, because I think it will be good for the book.
I don't want you to give any spoilers, but which story that's right that that gave you the most emotions, like good emotions or bad emotions, looking back and remembering that for the book.
Yeah, there is many. There is even not just MMA, but when I won the ADCC and all the history behind that. Uh, the going to that title, that was my dream since I started jiu-jitsu. Not since I started, but since in 1998. Since I saw the first ADCC, I said I want to move to MMA on day. So I want to be the greatest at no gi, and to be the greatest, I need to win ADCC. And that was from 98, and I finally won the ADC in 2007. I fought in 2005 for the first time, and all the history is about the trials, how hard it was, and and to be in the trials right after I got there was a fight, and I was in the middle, and they stabbed me with a knife, and I have a knee surgery, and right after I had like a very tough trial. So all these histories I want to tell, and tell what I learned from that, because more than the history is nice to because that's what people looking for, but I think the nicest is the things that I think I can things that I will say that I learned from that, and how I keep this flame live, to don't just, like I said, learn that time and then forget.
Saturday night is gonna be a fight against Gilbert Burns. Is it the second to last fight of your career? Is that going still the plan for you?
Yeah, the plan right now is that's the second last, so probably the next one is last. But it's, you don't know. I don't know. It's kind of, that's the plan, but the plans sometimes change. So let's see what happens after Saturday.
What are your thoughts on him as an opponent for you?
He's great. He has a great jiu-jitsu. So it's different for me, because he's a high level, like world champion jiu-jitsu fighter, and also he's a great Thai fighter who evolved a lot last year. So I hope it will be a great fight.
I spoke with Gilbert Burns and he said that he believes he's going to be the one to submit you in MMA, the first one who submits you in MMA. Do you think he's actually gonna try that, to go to the ground with you, or maybe choosing a different path and forcing you to stay on your feet and trade with him?
Yeah, I think he will start more trying to stand up with me. But for sure, he has the tools, He has the tools to fight a good jiu-jitsu with me and to try to submit me. I'm in the game. I know I can win, I can lose, I can submit, I can be submit, and that's not a problem for me nowadays. That's part of the game, and to be in the game, and you gotta know that. You gotta know that even if I go there and represent jiu-jitsu and do my best, he can go there and do well also, but I hope not.
I don't recall any other fighter that's gonna fight you saying that he believes he's gonna submit you. Uh, how does that make you feel listening to that for the first time? I imagine.
Yeah. Actually, there was some guys they said that they said that they could submit me before, and yeah, that's normal. That's of course he can. He's a great jiu-jitsu fighter, but we just will know when we close that octagon.
Other than that jiu-jitsu match against Roman Barral in 2006, have you ever been submitted as a black belt in MMA or jiu-jitsu?
Not in MMA, but in jiu-jitsu, I've been submitted as a black belt 2 times, as I remember. Yeah, 2 times. Once to Romulo, that was also the only time I passed out in my life, and once to Xande Ribeiro by in a championship in 2005. And yeah, as a black and as a blue and purple belt, I've never been submitted. As a brown belt, I've been submitted once for a guy from São Paulo, Foca, and I fought him many times. I won most, but the one that he won, he submitted me. That was my first time, first submission that I got, first time, and 2 times as a black belt, 1 time as a brown and 2 times as a black belt. That's it.
And I mean, this is a big opportunity for him. He's fighting a big name, especially in jiu-jitsu and MMA as well. What does this fight makes for you in terms of your career? Of course, you're 2 fights away from leaving the sport, but what does this fight means for you in terms of your plans ahead of your last fight after this one?
Yeah, as my future will be with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for sure. Like not just my academy, but all the affiliate academies that I'm, now start to grow the organization, maybe the podcast, YouTube, and this kind of things, YouTube channel, and I want to release also instructionals, some instructionals, things. So that's an important fight because it's a guy who really, it's a great jiu-jitsu fighter, a legit jiu-jitsu fighter. So it's important to have a good win on Saturday.
You said that this is the plan to last fights, but plans sometimes change. What would it take for the UFC to convince you to change your plans and stay a little bit longer in the sport?
Yeah, for sure, a chance to fight for the title. If I had, they show me that there was a way, there is a way to go. Let's say I win this one and I win next one. I say, no, you got the chance. I want you to fight for the title, this kind of thing. So that's for sure would be the main reason to stay, because I'm not fighting in this sport for the money, or money is very important, and it's great to be well paid nowadays, but that's not my motto. That's my goal is always to be the best, and that's what I keep doing, and to have a chance to fight for the title with a proper camp would be great.
After your win over Ben Askren, Jorge Masvidal's manager went on social media saying that Jorge Masvidal wants that rematch and asking you to save your last fight for him. Do you get your hopes high that maybe that was going to happen, or maybe now that he's probably fighting Kamaru Usman next, you don't expect that to actually happen?
I hope, for me, if he wins would be great, because then, if they honor their what they said, then we could do a title fight in my last fight. So let's hope he wins. Nothing against Camaro, but would be much better for me if Masvidal wins.
You have shared the cage with both Usman and Masvidal. How do you see this matchup? Who do you think gets the belt if they actually fight in the UFC?
Yeah, I think Usman. He's the champion. He's the favorite, and but Masvidal is danger, and mainly most important, he been improving so much the last year. He's a good boxer. His wrestling is no joke. It was not easy to take him down, and his jiu-jitsu defense was good. So he has a very technical boxing. Uh, he Usman, I think, hits a little bit harder, But Masvidal is danger too. You know, his style of boxing is very technical, very good, very efficient for MMA. So will be interesting. Although I think, of course, Usman is the favorite because he's the champion, he being the champion. But a fight is a fight. You never know what can happen.